What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. It is time for the Europa League playoff predictions, and there are some really exciting fixtures in here today, including Fenerbahce against Nottingham Forest and Celtic up against Stuttgart. Real quick, I am giving away another $100 as a thank you to all of you for the support over on the Patreon. We reached the member goal, and the group chat has never been this active. There are so many of you in there, not only discussing with me, but discussing with each other, different picks, different bets, different ACCAs, and we've built such an amazing community over there. So I'm thinking if we can stay above this member goal going forward, and by the time I do this giveaway, that I will actually just make it $100 every month, so that every single month a member can randomly win, because this is the fourth time we've done it this season, and at this point the support has been so great that I want to give even more back to you guys. So if you want to enter the $100 giveaway this time round, then join the Patreon and I'll announce the winner in the Premier League video on the 26th of February after the Champions League playoffs have finished. I'll talk more about the Patreon later and what you can get on there and everything like that, but now let's get straight into the Europa League predictions. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe, hype the video down below if you can, and leave your predictions in the comments. Like I said, there are some really tasty fixtures to get through today. The first game we have is Dinamo Zagreb up against Genk. Now remember, obviously the playoffs were done in a seeded fashion, so the teams at the very bottom of the playoff spots, 23rd, 24th, play against the teams at the top, the 9th and the 10th, and this is that fixture. Dinamo Zagreb snuck in 23rd place after losing 4 of their last 5 games in the Europa League phase. And Genk, they just missed out. They finished in 9th place. They had a really good group phase. But this is not going to be as straightforward as the league table suggests, in my opinion. Now, ultimately, I think Genk are a bit better than Dinamo Zagreb. They certainly have been in Europe this season. I think they can take something going into the home leg, but I don't think you can look at the table and just think, yeah, this would be an easy win for Genk. I don't think so. I think Dinamo Zagreb are a decent team at home. We've been following them in their domestic league all season over on the Patreon and everything like that. So I think this is going to be a tough first game, and I'm actually going to sit on the fence and go for a 1-1 draw. The tip is both teams to score at 1.75, and I think Dinamo Zagreb won't mind a draw, but I also think Genk won't mind a draw as well. Of course not. If you're the away team in the first leg and you can get a draw, you then decide the tie at home. And Genk, they have been pretty formidable in the Europa League. They finished on the same amount of points as Roma, so I think Genk can eventually get the job done, but I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw here. After this, it is one of my 2 favourite ties of the playoffs. It's Fenerbahce up against Nottingham Forest. Now, Fenerbahce are a really exciting team. We tipped over on the Patreon at the weekend, Fenerbahce double chance and both teams to score at 2.15, I think it was, against Trabzonspor. They went away from home against a team in Turkey that has a pretty good defence and won 3-2. Fenerbahce games are very exciting, and they are one of the few teams, I think, that actually stand up to the mid-tier to lower tier this season Premier League teams like Nottingham Forest. I think Fenerbahce, if they were dropped into the Premier League, they wouldn't get relegated. And at the moment, we're talking about Forest possibly getting relegated. So that's the kind of level we're talking at. Forest, they have been okay in the Europa League. They finished 13th in the group stage. Fenerbahce down in 19th, but they only lost 1 of their last 5 Europa League phase games, Fenerbahce. And at home here, I think they need to take a win if they're going to get something from this tie. Ultimately, I think you'd expect Forest to qualify, but Fenerbahce are a good side. So I'm going to say a 2-1 win to the Turkish side, and the tip is going to be the same tip that I tipped at the weekend against Trabzonspor. It's going to be Fenerbahce double chance and both teams to score at odds of 2.2. Obviously, Nottingham Forest have sacked their manager. Again, it's pretty crazy over there, and who knows, maybe they focus Europa League. It'd be really weird if they got relegated to the Championship, win the Europa League, and then go on and play Champions League whilst playing in the Championship. But still, I'm going to go for a Fenerbahce win here. It doesn't mean that Forest are out of the tie by any means, but I'm just going to go for that 2-1. After this, we have, again, 2 really strong teams that I'm kind of surprised that both of them are in the playoffs. It's Paok Salonika from Greece up against Celta Vigo from Spain. Celta Vigo finished 16th. Paok finished 17th. Very closely matched, and I think this is going to be a tough one. Ultimately, on paper, I do just think the league differential makes the difference between these 2 teams. I think Paok are a very good side, and they're also good domestically, but they're up against Celta Vigo, who not only are decent for this level, but they're actually doing okay in La Liga as well. So I think this could be similar in the same way that I predicted Dinamo Zagreb and Genk to end in a draw, and then the home leg could decide it. I'm going to go for the same again. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Paok, I think, have to score in this game if they want a chance to qualify, because it's going to be tough going away to Spain to get a result otherwise, unless maybe it's a 0-0 draw. But I think Celta Vigo are also good for a goal. So the tip is my highest odds tip of the video. It's both teams to score and under 3.5 goals at odds of 3.1. So the first 3 games, I've got some kind of variation of both teams to score, siding with the home team with both teams to score, basically siding with both away teams and both teams to score, but with an eye on this one to be particularly lower scoring relative to the other one. That's why I'm going for under 3.5 goals as well, to massively increase the odds. If your risk tolerance isn't that high, you could go for both teams to score and under 4.5 goals. That'll still be above evens. Do I see this game ending 3-2? No, I don't. So that's what I'm going with. After this, we have SK Brann up against Bologna. Now, Bologna got a very, very good win away from home against Torino in Serie A. I predicted 1-0. They ended up winning 2-1. Brann, they're an interesting side. So Brann finished 24th, and the only reason they were able to do that is because they came back against MIDTJYLLAND and drew 3-3. They went down 3 times in that game, and they came back in stoppage time, the last kick of the game, to draw 3-3. And that point got them into 24th, essentially, and knocked out Young Boys, who obviously were a Champions League team not so long ago. Young Boys won, I think, like 5-1 at the weekend as well. And Brann slotted in that 24th spot. Now, unfortunately for them, they are up against Bologna, who are considerably better than them. And this is one of the ties of the playoffs where I could see Brann actually losing both legs. So I'm going to shade it to Bologna. I'm going to go for a 1-0. I've got here as a tip, I've got under 2.5 goals at 1.8, but I'm kind of tempted to say Bologna to win at 1.83. I'll leave that as a second tip, so I'll do 2 tips. Under 2.5 goals at 1.8, Bologna to win at 1.83. I just think they're better than Brann, and although they're at home, and like I said, they got a great result against MIDTJYLLAND to secure their playoff position, but I just think Bologna are better. After this, we have Celtic up against Stuttgart. Now, this is brilliant. Obviously, Celtic are one of the most well-known teams from the UK, obviously the most well-known Scottish team, and they are a good team. They score a lot of goals, there's free-flowing fixtures, everything like that. But they are up against VfB Stuttgart. Stuttgart won at the weekend. That was another correct score from the Bundesliga. We predicted 3-1. Celtic came from behind, 2-0 down to win 3-2 at the weekend in the Scottish League. And this is a lovely game with a lot of value. Whether you're going for goals, overs, the result, I think there's value for anyone, whatever kind of punter you are. And much like when, for some reason, when Celtic played Roma, Roma to win was above evens, I obviously went with Roma to win, and Roma smashed Celtic. VfB Stuttgart to win is very high in terms of odds, and I think it's too high. Although Celtic are good in Scotland, in terms of Europe, I don't think they stack up quite as well. So I'm going to go for a VfB Stuttgart 3-1 win. And I just think the odds are too high for VfB Stuttgart to win at 2.2. I know they're away from home, but I'd make it 2 at best, maybe 1.9, like a 50-50. But 2.2, I think there's a bit of value left on the table there. So I'm going for Stuttgart to win 3-1. You could go both teams to score on over 2.5 goals as well. I'll check the odds for you right now. They're probably something like 1.6, 1.7, 2.05. Why are they like that? I'm doing it again. I'm adding another tip. Both teams to score and over 2.5 goals at 2.05. So if you want to side with Celtic, maybe go for BTTS and overs. That allows for a Celtic 2-1 win even, which is very different to my 3-1 prediction. But I think the odds are too high for this game. Who knows? Maybe it ends up being a dud 0-0 draw because it's a knockout thing and there's a place in the Europa League on the line. But ultimately, I think Stuttgart are too good to allow that to happen. So I'm going for a 3-1 win. After this, we travel to France for Lille up against Zvezda or Red Star Belgrade, whatever you want to call them. This one is going to be an interesting one. I think both teams are decent. Lille obviously play in the stronger league. Red Star Belgrade play in Serbia, where it is much easier. They typically win. Last weekend, they won 3-0 as well. But they are a very good team. We've seen them perform well in the Champions League in the last 5-10 years. So they're not a bad side. Lille obviously the same, maybe not doing as well as they'd like to do in Ligue 1, but still decent. This one I found really tricky to predict, so I've just gone for a 1-1 draw. And again, the tip I really struggled with. I didn't want to go with both teams to score because I could see this being 1-0 either way or even 0-0. So I'm not sure on a result. I'm not sure on both teams to score. So the tip is just going to be under 3.5 goals at odds of 1.4, and that is not a single you back on its own. Okay, before someone comes for me and says the odds are too low, first of all, if you want higher odds, look at every other tip in this video. This is one you add to an accumulator to boost up your odds to a desired amount. So I'm going for under 3.5 goals at 1.4. After this, we have Ludogorets Razgrad up against Ferencvaros. This is a very exciting tie where I think there's going to be a lot of goals. Ludogorets had one of the most highest scoring league phase campaigns. I think before their game against Rangers and their last game in the league phase, their first 6 games, there was an average of over 4 goals a game. I think there's going to be tons of goals here. I think both teams will think they can win this tie, and I think that's going to make it very, very exciting. So I'm going to go for a high scoring 2-2 draw between the two teams. I think maybe Ferencvaros can take it in the home leg, in the second leg, but I'm going for a high-scoring 2-2 draw, and I think the odds are really good for both teams to score at 1.75. And finally, we have a Greek matchup, or a Greek match, Panathinaikos up against Viktoria Plzen. Panathinaikos, they slumped to a disappointing 0-0 draw at the weekend. Viktoria Plzen, perhaps not quite as good as they were a few years ago when we saw them briefly in the Champions League as well. I think this is going to be one of those knockout stage games where it is a cagey affair, because ultimately you could draw both legs 0-0 and still qualify on penalties if you're that way inclined, and I think both these teams are fairly solid defensively, so I'm going to go for a result that I think only the fans would be perhaps disappointed with, but the players perhaps not so much, especially the away side in Viktoria Plzen. I'm going to go for a 0-0 draw. And the tip, when it's a 0-0 draw, I've got to go for it, is under 2.5 goals at 1.66. So ultimately, all ties undecided. I've got a 1-goal winning margin or a draw for 7 of the 8 playoff games, and the only one I see a high-scoring win is VfB Stuttgart. But then again, Celtic are the kind of team, like we saw at the weekend, that can come from 2 goals down. So I think after the first leg in the Europa League, there won't be any decided ties. Unlike the Champions League, where I think it might be a little bit more one-sided, this, I think it is all to play for, so it's very, very exciting. So that is going to do it for the Europa League. Also, real quick, flashing up on the screen are everyone that's supporting me over on the Patreon. We're on to our 5th screen right now, and like I said, we reached the member goal, so I'm doing another $100 giveaway. All you have to do to be entered, nothing special, is just join the Patreon using the link in the description, patreon.com/thefull90. What do you get over there? You ask, you get exclusive members, tips, and accumulators. We currently have a stake builder challenge running. We took 1 unit from Saturday night, and we're currently up to 15 units before today's stake builder challenge. I've also instructed members to take 2 units of profit, so going forward, even if one of them loses, you still have doubled your money, but there is a chance to turn that 15 units into 30 with today's picks, which you can still get on tonight if you watch this video in time. You also get access to the group chats, direct messaging to me, which a lot of you have been doing lately. I've been talking to you on Patreon, on my phone. It's really cool. You get a shout out in every single video, entrance to the giveaways, and of course, my LYON predictions. That was a lot of stuff that I just said, but there's a lot you can get over on the Patreon. So click that link in the description, drop a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next video, and I'll see you over there very soon.